Chapter 6. Doc Ock. Otto was on a big table in the hospital theatre. The doctors were ready. "OK," said Dr. Isaacs. "We need to take off these metal arms." He moved towards the first metal arm with a knife. But then he stopped. The arm was looking at him. Then suddenly the arm hit Dr. Isaacs very hard. He flew across the room and crashed through a window. Then the arms turned to the other doctors and killed them too. Otto woke up and looked around. He was in a hospital theatre. And then he saw bodies, blood, and glass everywhere. "No!" he cried. All this was his fault. The arms were killers, and he couldn't stop them. Otto tried to stand. The arms helped him. 2 of the arms became legs. They walked out of the hospital and into the road. A taxi was going to crash into them, but the arms hit the taxi and it turned over. They went down to the Hudson River. There they found an empty old building above the water. The arms had some dark plans. This was a great place to make them real. "Everyone's talking about it," cried Jonah Jameson in his office at the Daily Bugle. "A crazy scientist with 4 metal arms. What do we call him?" he shouted. "Dr. Octopus?" said one of his men. "Dr. Octopus. Doc Ock. I love it." Betty Brant brought Peter into the office. "Where have you been?" Jameson shouted. "There's a crazy scientist in town, and we have no pictures. You've lost your job." "Boss, the planetarium party?" said Betty. "Oh, OK, Parker, I need you. There's a big party for an American hero. My son." "Could you pay me now?" asked Peter. Jameson laughed loudly. Then he looked at Peter again and laughed some more. "Ha ha ha ha! Planetarium tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Goodbye." Down on the river, Otto was sitting all alone. "My Rosie's dead," he said. "My dream is dead." He looked down sadly at the water. "Something is talking in my brain," he thought. He put his hand to the back of his head. The microchip was gone. "Peter was right," Otto said. "I couldn't control the reaction." But then the voice in his brain got louder. "It was working," it said. "We can build the reactor again." "Yes," said Otto. "We'll build again. We need money. We will take money. It's a crime not to finish our work." The arms were taking control of his brain now. "The energy of the sun in my hands," cried Otto. "Nothing will stand in our way. Nothing." "No," said the man at the bank. "We can't lend you any money." "I see," said Aunt May. She smiled, but she sounded tired and old. Peter took her hand. "Don't worry. We'll find a way," he said. But then, "Oh no," he thought. His spider sense woke up. Doc Ock arrived at the bank. He was wearing a big coat and dark glasses. He wanted money too, but he wasn't going to ask for it. The long arms came out of his coat. They pulled off a big metal door at the back of the bank. They threw the door across the bank towards Peter and Aunt May. Peter ran to change his clothes. "Don't leave me," called Aunt May. Spider-Man ran around the walls behind Doc Ock. The arms threw bags of money at him. Peter tried to shoot some webbing, but nothing happened. A bag of money hit Peter and he fell to the floor. The metal arms lifted him up. 2 metal hands pushed down on his head. Now Peter was angry. He shot webbing to the right and left. He pulled 2 heavy desks fast towards Ock. Doc Ock and a desk crashed through the bank window. People on the street outside cried out. At that moment, 2 police cars arrived. The police jumped out and pointed their guns at Ock. A metal arm moved towards a crowd of people and took a woman in its hand. It was Aunt May. She had an umbrella in her hand, and she hit Ock with it. "Don't follow me!" Ock shouted, and he ran up the side of a high building. The police couldn't shoot at Ock because he had Aunt May in his arms. Spider-Man was waiting near the top of the building. "Give her to me," he said. At first, Ock lifted Aunt May up to Spider-Man, but then he opened his metal hand. Now Aunt May was falling fast. In a moment, Spider-Man shot webbing at Aunt May and stopped her fall. Ock hit Spider-Man, and Aunt May swung back up. She hung onto the building with her umbrella. Ock and Spider-Man fought up and down the building. Ock threw Spider-Man through a window of a building across the street. Peter shot webbing at both sides of the window. He pulled back on the webbing and fired himself across to Ock and Aunt May. Ock held Aunt May behind his back. A long knife came out of one of the arms. Suddenly, Aunt May swung her umbrella into Ock's face. His dark glasses broke, and he cried out. He dropped Aunt May again. But Spider-Man shot 2 lines of webbing down to Aunt May and quickly caught her. He swung down to the street and put her down very carefully. Aunt May wasn't in danger now, so the police started to shoot at Ock. But Ock went higher up the building and escaped over the roof. Chapter 7. Spider-Man No More. Harry sat at the bar in the planetarium. "You're drinking too much, Harry," said Peter. "It's a party," said Harry. "And don't forget, I've just lost all my money on a crazy scientist. And then there's Spider-Man." "Let's not talk about him tonight, Harry." "Every night, Peter," said Harry. "Until I find him, I can only think about Spider-Man." "Parker!" shouted Jonah Jameson across the room. "Parker, I'm not paying you to sit at the bar all evening. Take photos. Take more photos. Take pictures of me and my wife with the city's most important people." Just then, a woman spoke into a microphone. "Good evening, everyone," she said. "Tonight, the Science Library of New York welcomes a special American hero. The first man to play football on the moon. The great, the fine, the good-looking Captain John Jameson." The band played, and John Jameson came down some stairs. Peter was ready with his camera. But he couldn't take the picture. MJ was standing next to John Jameson, with her arm in his. She smiled as she looked at all the faces, but then she saw Peter. Later, Peter found MJ outside the party. "Hi," he said. "Oh, you," she said. "Listen, I'm sorry," he said. "There was trouble on the way to the theatre." She stopped him. "I don't know you," she said angrily, "and I can't think about you anymore. It hurts too much. Can I get you a drink?" "I'm with John. He'll get my drink. John has seen my show 5 times. Harry has seen it. Aunt May has seen it. My ill mother has seen it. Even my father has seen it. But my best friend? Oh no, he can't get to a theatre for 8 o'clock. After all these years, he's just an empty seat to me." A little later, John Jameson took the microphone. "I just want you all to know," he said, The beautiful Miss Mary Jane Watson has just agreed to be my wife." MJ went up to John and kissed him. "Shoot the picture, Parker," said Jonah Jameson. "Shoot the picture!" Peter lifted the camera and took the picture. But he could only think about MJ. Was she lost to him now? He ran outside. He changed into his Spider-Man clothes and started to swing through the city. He felt better, but not for long. Suddenly there was no more webbing. He crashed down to the street. He tried again to shoot some webbing, but nothing happened. "Why is this happening to me?" he asked. He tried to go up a wall, but he crashed down again. He sat there for a moment. He saw an old Daily Bugle next to him. His Spider-Man photo was on the front page. The story was about Spider-Man and Doc Ock at the bank. They were taking the money together. Late that night, there was a storm in the city. Peter couldn't sleep. He was thinking about Uncle Ben. He thought about Uncle Ben's words, the words he said on the day he died. "With great power comes great responsibility." "I can't live your dreams anymore, Uncle Ben," said Peter. "I can't be Spider-Man. I want a life of my own." Peter got dressed. He took his Spider-Man clothes with him and went out. He came to a small street and threw his Spider-Man clothes away. "Spider-Man no more," he thought, and he went home.